Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Warley Live on Wednesdays. So, thank you for joining us today. Before we go any further, I just want to do a quick tribute, really, to Prince Philip. He died the weekend, so it just really just to remember, just if we can take a few minutes just to remember him. I was lucky enough to meet him once at St James's Palace when I got my Gold Duke of Edinburgh's award. And he was a lovely gentleman. A lot of time to talk to everyone who was there, or the recipients of the award. He did a lot for the youth, and I got a lot from doing my Gold Duke of Edinburgh's award. And I've still been a part of the Duke of Edinburgh's award since, as an instructor and assessor. So I've been involved with the organisation for 30 odd years now. I first got involved when I was 14, and I'm now 44. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life. So our best wishes on behalf of Warley to the Queen and all the family. And if you can just wish them all the best in this time of grief. So that's all I really want to say. But I hope you don't mind me sharing my sort of memory with you all of Prince Philip. Like I said, he was a gentleman, and he had his moments. He come out with some right corkers in his time, which I don't think was. I think was meant in the right way. I know he's had some grief about some of the things he said, but I think his heart was in the right place, and he's done. Spent 70 years looking after the Queen, and he's done a fantastic job for the country. So that's my tribute. So thanks very much. Hope you don't mind me sharing. So right, today we've got Martyn, who's a club member of Warley Model Railway Club. He's a live steam modeller, Hornby Live Steam modeller, and he's also an O-gauge modeller. So we worked on a few projects in the club together. So I'll bring Martyn in. Hi, Martyn.
Afternoon, Andy. Afternoon, everybody.
You okay?
Yeah, fine.
Good. So we're coming out of lockdown slowly. So hopefully we're back in Warley Club soon. Next month. We're about to start filtering back. How's Telford Club going on?
Fine. We're much the same as Warley. Much smaller club, obviously. There's only about 30 members. Actually, the club is very much like one of the old wooden RAF type huts, like some of the cadet huts that we used to have. So we're only allowed to pop in and just check it over, much the same as Warley. Although I have popped in a couple of times because I've been working on one of the layouts, the O-gauge layout they've got, and that's another story. So yeah, we're much the same as Warley, waiting.
Yeah, we had our first return to face-to-face activities with the Air Cadets last Monday night. First time I've been on a squadron since just before my birthday, March last year. So it's been a long time. But we had a quick staff meeting, and I think the cadets are coming back. We're going to start to filter back in bubbles next week, or being well. But it's been a long time. So I think if there's a few of us sort of, I suppose, itching to get back to a bit of some sort of normality, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I used to do the Air Cadets myself. I was a commanding officer of the Wolverhampton Squadron, and we got a 12-month period where they were changing from the outward bound to the BELA, or the Basic Expedition Leaders Award. So all the mountaineering qualifications I got went out the window, so we couldn't take the kids out for 12 months. It was crazy. So yeah, the Air Cadets have been through it at least once, so I'm sure they'll get through this one.
Absolutely, we'll get through. We'll carry on.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned the 7mm layout you're working on in the club. So you sent me some video of that. So let's have a look at that.
We'll just explain about it first.
Yeah.
The history behind it is when I moved over to Telford. obviously it's quite a long way to travel to Warley, so there was a local club which literally is about a mile and a half from where I live. I'm probably the closest member to it, and I joined that, and they were mainly engaged people. There is, I think it's 2 layout. I think they've got an EM layout in construction. They've got a double O layout that they used to use every club night that they're there testing their own stock out on. And they decide to venture into O gauge. And when I turns up on the scene, they've got a 4-board layout, and it's finished, scenery, everything. It looked quite nice, but they'd used the Pico set track points, and they'd laid it on 6mm foam, which was the softest foam in the world. And anybody that's laid track on foam will know it's as bad as cork. Is that when you nail it down, if you're not careful, you can have it look like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And even Dapple locos wouldn't negotiate having stuff coming off everywhere. So just as we came out of lockdown last year, the discussion was had that it's got to be stripped off and started again. And as I've got a massive conservatory, I got the prize of doing it. As I've got more experience in O gauge building than any of the people at the club. So I've now completed my part of it, rebuilding, rewiring, track laying, track spraying, and it's now back at the club, ready for the next phase when we can open up. So if you want to run the video, I'll try and explain it if as we go along, if you can pause it. Now this particular piece is how the boards disassemble, mainly to show the board joiners I've used, which are the new Model Tech board joiners, and they're absolutely brilliant. I do apologise for the shaky video, but I think it's something in the translation of the video to video.
Yeah, it's going from iPhone to computers.
Yeah, if you just pause it there a second, you just pause it, we've got a screenshot. The layout, as you can see, is 4 boards, where at the far end we can hardly see on the right hand side is going to be like 3 roads for an engine shed, not an engine shed, a goods yard. So the line that goes off to the left, the far left, is the one that runs out. So it'll run through a brick parapet wall, scenic break onto the fiddle road, which is a turntable fiddle road. And then as you come back along the layout, you've got a passing loop which comes into the station on the left-hand side of the bottom. So what you can see on the left is the bay platform, which will be for auto trains, and then the crossing point there will be the main platform to release the loco to run around the train. And then the point on the right-hand side, the bottom of the screen, is a cattle dock and just a spur to park a brake van.
Okay.
And then the couple of points on the left-hand side in the middle of the board, that's going to be the engine storage and servicing facility. And the other thing they're thinking of, or more work for me, is that they want 2 fiddle roads. So this end of the board will be like a truncated station where the track's been severed at a crossing. So as if we're running just 1 fiddle board, then that's what you'll see, a severed crossing as the scenic break. But then if they decide to go and run the 2 fiddle roads, then it'll continue across the crossing into the 2nd fiddle road. So we can, in effect, have through trains.
It just gives you some variation then, doesn't it? And a bit of some different exhibitions and shows for interest.
Well, that's right. I mean, it is possible to run it as a single person, stuff in and out of a fiddle road. So maximum people would be 4, as when we used to run Broome Junction, although not as big and stock intensive as Broome Junction was. Other thing I'll just explain while this is on the screen, if you look from the point motors, there's like a brass tube that runs across the back scene. What I've used is the Megapoints controller. Well, they bought the Megapoints controller system. So it runs 10-point motors off the Megapoints panel, which I've designed a new panel because it doesn't resemble the one that Megapoints did for them. So you've got like piano wiring tube to run the points. And then inside the points, I use the Pico Frog micro switch to flick to change the micro switches. The reason for doing it this way is because behind the back scene is about 75 mil of room, which I've boxed in, which covers all the plug connections for to the layout, harnesses, and boxes all in all the servo. So if we've got a problem at an exhibition, it's not going to be a case of somebody having to climb on their hands and knees under the layout to change a point motor.
Yeah, it makes life easier if everything's above the board, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And as I'm, again, the youngest member of the club, I think. So, like all clubs, you end up with people in the 60s, late 40s to 60s.
Yeah, definitely. You tend to get dipped, don't you, when you're the youngest one? You're sort of like, oh, Andy can do that.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I've still got to finish off Warley Road, the big roundy O gauge layout. I'm in the process of about the third wiring I've done since I was been a club member of Warley. So hopefully before this show we should have some more of the points working off the main board.
So what's the plan with Warley Road now? Is it?
Well, Warley Road was the first layout that I came across in O gauge at the club. I joined 17 years ago when I retired from the fire service, and they were just building it. And it's if anybody knows anything about it, or if you don't, a background of it, it was designed as a big circular layout. Which, if you imagine, okay, I'll carry on the layout. Yeah, well, Andy goes to the yeah, the layout is like a folded over figure of 8. So the storage roads, Fiddle Road, is a through road inside the layout, and then it runs uphill through the station, round the boards, and then back down through a tunnel into the other end of the Fiddle Road. And it was designed to go to an exhibition, mainly the club exhibition at the NEC. It was designed in 3 layers of boards: an outer layer, then an inner layer which included the Fiddle Roads, and then a scenic layer which included some of the branch part of it. And none of the boards were uniform; they were all different shapes and sizes. And we got it together in the new club room when it first opened, and the idea was to finish it off, get it to a show. And it took us ages to get it running because nothing fit properly. It had never been together as a full layout. And then it was decided that the track work was not correct. The points were fine. It's just that the curve, they'd got super elevation on. So me and one of the club members, John Smith, another ex-fireman, we relayed all the track, and we relayed all the track through the Fiddle Road and put loads of copper clad down because the Fiddle Road split into about 4 different sections on different boards. That was the first rewire I did on the layout. Then we got further forward, and we're years on in, and it shows no sign of ever going to a show because it would take most of the Arctic up to have taken it to a show, and it would have taken, I would imagine, a full day to have got it set up. It was just a non-starter. So after a lot of money, shall we say, has been spent on the layout, it was decided to make it a permanent layout in the club rooms. So second load of track relaying was done by myself and John Parry, and we relayed all the Fiddle Roads, took up all the copper clad, put loads more points down, and included a crossing between the up and the down, because anything coming off the branch line went into, it crossed over in the tunnel, which is never a good thing to have a crossing in a tunnel, because that was a scene of many derailments in exhibitions at the club. So we took the crossing out in the tunnel, and I built this section where you've got a centre road that's dual running. It'll go either way, plus you can cross from up to down if you want to. So if you're putting a banker on to push stuff up the hill, you can cross over beyond the station, then run back down, and then cross over in the Fiddle Road. And then in the meantime, before that, I'd already done a second set of wiring. And then the third set of wiring, when we realised that we're having lots of problems at club open days, where the DCC, which is Digitrax, or Dodgy Tricks, as a lot of people refer to it as, it was causing problems where if anybody shorted out when they were doing the shunting on the outside of the layout, everything stopped. And there's such a big layout like that, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I bought a set of Digitrax myself, and I read through the manual. If anybody's ever seen a Digitrax manual, has he got one to hand? There's one around here somewhere. It's
huge.
It's a volume. It's a tome, and you need to go through it and highlight the pages and put post-it notes on to remind you where to go. And I realised what we were doing was wrong. We got all the base stations were what they call slave stations. We hadn't got a master station. So the club allowed the purchase of a new base unit. So as then I could turn the other 3 into slaves and then section it off. So you got an up, a down, a branch, and the shunting area. So it doesn't matter then if you got a short on one of the lines, it wasn't going to short out any of the other 3.
Yeah.
So that was another lot of wiring. It was buzz bar city under there because I had to lay 4 lots of pairs of buzz bars, which are all marked up different. Because the thing I learned from it is that I'm never going to be rewiring that again, and whoever comes behind me needs to know what. Yeah, so they can look at the colours. I mean, bear in mind I'm colourblind, so that worked quite well. So there's all the droppers are different colours for the different areas. All the buzz bars are labelled up as to what they are. So hopefully anybody that's going to have got a problem can sort it out. As long as they don't wire from the wrong buzz bar to the wrong buzz bar, it'll run fine. And then the other part I'm doing now is, or I've been doing now the last 3 or 4 years, God, it must be 5 years, I think, since I started doing that, one thing or another, is a new panel. Because on the inside of the layout, we had 2 panels, one for the fiddle area and one for the main layout. And it was a nightmare trying to switch from one to the other. So everything's incorporated on one. At the moment, only the main up and down fiddle road works. I've wired in a couple of the points on the crossover into the shunting roads, and the shunting roads are all on DCC. So I've now got to finish off the branch and then the other end of the station from the shunting roads, because we've got to put a couple of points back in that we took out, so you can come out to the shunting area loop and go the correct way down into the fiddle road. So I'm hoping to get most of that done before the club open day.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I think I'm your lackey for the day. On the open day. So
that'd be interesting.
I haven't got a clue how to work it, so I need lessons on how to run Warley Road.
It's not difficult, because what I've done with a panel, where before we had a switch for every point, because most of it's in loops, one switch operates both points on the loop, and the lights work off the points. So because they're tortoise motors, they've got their own micro switch. They've 2 micro switches in them. So one's for the point and the frog, and the other one's for the 2 LEDs that show you which road it's going on. So theoretically, if the lights are all in the right direction, you've got the road set correctly, unless you haven't.
Yeah, and then you soon find out.
And you soon find out. Yeah.
Well, yeah. We've got a couple of O-gauge Warley modelers joining us at the moment. We've got Tony. Tony's popped up and said afternoon, and so is Lee Timmins.
Oh, great! Nice.
So I think we're planning to do a modern image on the open day, the one at the end of the month.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna have all my BR blue stuff. Have you got a couple of 47s? Have you?
I've got all my stuff's green, 47, 37, and 35, and also an 08. And I've got several coaches which you can't tell what they are. They're there's a hang on, excuse me a minute. They're MTH.
Okay.
Yeah, they're sort of. There's no. They could be either LMS or they could be early BR, because they're Stania coaches. And they've got so they are BR, early BR. So I'll be bringing those. But
well, we can run it in sort of different stages, can't we? Because you can do the early diesel. Yeah. And I've got the later. Well, I suppose BR Blue isn't later diesel, is it nowadays?
No, Which era of the 3000 eras they've decided to come up with it is. It's the follow on. I mean, the thing is, you got to remember that there would have been a time when you'd have had steam, green diesels, and blue diesels running at the same time.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I'm sure I've seen a picture of some like Flying Scotsman running with BR Blue. Because
I think it may not have been Flying Scotsman itself. I can't remember. Pete Waterman was the best one to tell you on that one, even now.
I'm sure they've still got BR Blue with when it first come out, they were still running Steam. So
yeah.
You know, you could, but then it's our layout and we want what we want.
Well, what you got to think of is that Steam didn't go to the early 60s, and by then you've got the transition from green to blue and tops coming in. So there's a lot going on in that area. So it's quite feasible that you could run everything together. You could even have some BR Steam at the same time if you're running over that sort of transition period. We'll get by.
We should be covered, to be fair, because we've got obviously we're going to be running the diesels on Warley Road.
Yeah.
John Parry's going to be running Steam on Old Purcell Street.
Oh yeah, because that's working now, isn't it?
That'll be running. So we've got in 7 mil, we've got 2 fantastic layouts, and we cover everything from sort of early 1900s to sort of 1980s, 1990s.
Yeah,
quite comfortably, really. I've ordered the HST from KMRS, but I've heard no more about that.
It's gone very quiet there since the pandemic. There's one or two things that have gone very quiet. That's one notably quiet by its absence. The Black 5 that's Ellis Clark's doing, that's going through. They've finished all the CAD works I've read, so that's going forward now for pre-production models. And if you've got anything from Daffel, 121s and things like that, that's sat in the Suez Canal.
Is that where they're stuck?
Yeah, that container ship that got stuck the other week, there's a container on it that's got all the new Dapol releases. So that's going to be a few weeks before that gets released. If they've paid they've incurred. It'll happen. It'll get moved on.
It'll eventually come through. It's saving me some money at the moment because of I'm not paying for anything at the moment. But that does look like the bubble cars look quite nice. The Dapple ones.
They do. They're very nice. In fact, the Mark 1 coaches. What I saw, before the year before pandemic. Oh, this is becoming the year before pandemic. Yeah, post pandemic. I was in the Dapol Club, which they've closed down at the moment, and I went to Chirk, which is only down the road from me now, and they got the mock-up of one of the production models. Absolutely beautiful. It is stunning model. Yeah,
they're bringing some nice stuff out, Dapol, aren't they?
Yeah.
The 66 looks nice as well. I think that'll be a nice model when it comes out, and the price is good as well. It's
it's a lot of model for money.
So if that's another one, I'm again. It's not my era, but it's the BR Blue. The large logo version looks such a nice model. Nice logo in that livery. It's one of the things you've got to get away with that one.
Oh, it is. I think it will sell well because it's in the 00 fraternity. The following of the 66s is phenomenal. So there's the amount of people on the Facebook groups that have got them, and they've got like one of every type of livery, and there's just there's that many liveries that they'll be able to produce that one for decades.
Absolutely, it's definitely one for the future.
Yeah.
So, while we're talking about 7 mil, you also we're both members of the Gajo Guild.
Yes.
Then I've been member for just over 12 months now. But again, it's another thing I've sort of missed is the shows and the get-togethers.
Well, the annoying thing for me is they've moved the show from Telford, which is a 5-minute ride down the road to Telford from here for me. So we've now got to go to the Stafford program, which is a shame because I think Telford was quite an easy access one for everybody, although Stafford isn't too bad. I just hope they put enough buses on to run from the railway station because they're right the other side of the town. Station's
Okay.
one side of the town, and the showground is on the stone side of the town, miles away. The other side, the RAF, the old RAF base. So,
Okay.
so if
Yeah,
you're going by bus or train, you've got a long journey once you get off the train.
yeah, I suppose. But I suppose the problem with Telford wasn't always the best connection on a Sunday either, was it? Really? For
No,
trains?
I could never understand Telford. Is that they got a blank sheet of paper and a lot of green land, and they got a railway running through it that you couldn't move. So why they built the town centre nearly a mile away from the railway line, I'll never understand. It should have all been built. The bus station should have been one side of the railway and the town centre the other side.
Yeah, the shops all around it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you're going by train, you've got a long walk. It's ridiculous.
Planning for you, eh?
Yeah, planning. Yeah.
So, obviously with the guild, do you do anything with the guild other than just?
No. I mean, other than see the traders and buy lots of bits and pieces. Although having said that, the amount of traders I usually get stuff off, most of them have gone online, and you getting into the modern world of internet shopping and stuff like that. So now the guild, I've been a member of the guild again since I joined the club. So I've been a member for about 16 years. It's useful. I don't go to the forums too much because there's too many arguments.
Yeah, I tend to keep away from the arguments. Just let me get on with it.
Yeah.
The other thing you were mentioning was the with the 7mm was these pro track.
Yeah, the pro tracks. Yeah. If I can show you, because they're doing all scale. Now, excuse me, I'm trying to find left, right, and right, left here. So if you can see, they just join. Oh, she's great. Everything goes you've got to go the opposite way with everything.
Yeah.
So the idea being that the wavy edge is just over the board edge. And then when you put the boards together, as you saw in that little video that we did, I showed earlier on, they just pull the track straight together. Now, the few issues I found with these in our gauge, it may not be in all the other scales, is that that's too long, so you need to trim that down with Pico tracks. The idea is if you take, I think it's about 5 sleepers off the Pico track and then put these underneath them and then solder it to it before you cut it. So this part butts up against the sleeper, so you need to trim that back. And the secret to it is to pre-tin this part and then pre-tin the underside of your rail before you try and solder them together.
Just apply heat to the track then?
Yeah, heat to the track then. And I mean, I did it in the conservatory. It was quite cold back in February when I was doing this. So I got a blowtorch, one of these little butane soldering blowtorches one side, a great big soldering iron on the other side to make it all flow. But they also have, they've got like a dropper hole, so you can wire solder from one side of the board straight to that. So you power your rails right at the end without having to put any other droppers at the side. And the other thing I've had to do on these, if you're doing CNL fine scale track, they'll be the right thickness. But if you're using Pico, you need about a 1mm strip to glue underneath to bring it up to the right height, otherwise you're going to have about 1.5 mm of solder to try and solder the track to the copper clad.
Yeah, that's too much of a gap then, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's easy just to bring them up. But on these O gauge, they've got 6 holes for pins, so you can really secure them down nice and tight. And as you saw on that video that I did, I've got a crossing, 2 points crossing the track. So you've got 2 lines going across with the crossing in between. So you've got three of these board joints together. No trouble at all. It works perfect. You've just got to take your time and get everything in place before you cut the tracks. And the other thing is make sure you make sure you keep it engaged, because it's easy, because you've got quite a bit of track. You think about it, 2 lengths of that, it's easy to spread the lines out or in. So just check your gauge with a micrometer.
Okay. And
I didn't do that. I was just lucky they work right. But so yeah, I mean, a few conversations with people on the Facebook groups about using them. When the people have been asking how do you do this, and people say, "Oh, use copper clad." No, I've used copper clad many times, and they're a fiddle. These are far better. And they get people going, "Oh, well, they're not, the board ends are unprotected. You're going to get them damaged." So I thought, well, if you've got a layout that you disassemble and you've got these hanging over the edge, that's not a problem because you should protect your board ends when they're in transit anyway. So you
Absolutely,
can have connections and all sorts sticking out. So it's a non-starter.
Absolutely. Well, I've got mine for double O, and I'm gonna get some O gauge ones for me. I think when I do my main line, I'm gonna just to give it a bit more, just for helping with alignment with the hardest high speed running.
They're brilliant. You won't regret it. It'll just make life so much easier. You won't have board joints going out of sync. So there's 6 pins on the O gauge one, so they're not going anywhere.
No,
when you put the ballast down, it's going to be solid. But just make people that in the smaller gauges, you get 4 pairs of crossings for £10, and in the O gauge ones, you get 2 pairs for £10. And they do them in all sorts of I think every scale that you model in HO, whatever, they do the board crossings. And the one thing that's come across, people asking about lifting sections. You know, everybody tries to make a hinge section to bring it up, but if you actually look at these, if I can get it in camera, oh, here we go again. The wavy edge, if you make sure the joint is on the rigid side of your doorway, and then the actual part that you're going to lift out is overhanging your lift out section, these should just slot in the other one. So when you put your board section back in, they just slot into each other.
That's it, lift
it out, yeah. All you've got to do is put some sort of connector underneath to either bridge the power across or make a contact switch with like you on say a wipe on the back of a driving wheel on a Loco. So, yeah.
I've actually been talking to Justin at Sky Model Scenery. We're talking about a cassette system. For I don't think it'll work in O gauge because of the size, but again, similar sort of thing where you have a cassette where you're about to drop your locos into the cassette, but again using these aligners just so you can run it on your layout. If you want
they would work. All you got to remember is that the lift out section's got to have the overhang. As long as the permanent part of it has got the gap for the overhang to step into.
Yeah, and he just drops in every time then.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you're watching, Justin, get your finger at your and get on with this cassette.
No excuses.
Yeah, we've done all the work for you now. So in terms of O gauge modelling for yourself, you've done quite a few built kits and models for just people, and obviously you got other people, people you work for.
Yeah.
How often do you do stuff for other people, and do you get much time to do stuff for yourself?
All the time, and no. What on earth is that?
That's my phone.
Oh, God.
It's because I'm back at work now. Everyone's decided to ring me on my phone.
Right. Somebody, a very good friend of mine, club member, who sadly passed away before I'd ever see him again through lockdown, Mr. John Seward, told me when I started building for other people, he says, you won't enjoy it, you won't build for anything for yourself. And he's quite right. I would say I wouldn't enjoy it. I've enjoyed what I've done or what I'm doing, but it takes a long time to get things done for myself. I've got a 4F that I've built. I finally finished it before Christmas, and I've been working on that for about 7 years. In fact, I think the wheels and motion control pon rods have been on 3 4Fs that I've built previous to that. But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's frustrating. The biggest frustration I've had recently is with varnishes. I've been using bronze seal varnishes, and for some reason I use the outdoor version, which is thin with white spirit, and for some reason the satin goes grainy, and I've had 3 locos I had to strip in November because I went on the perfect finish with all the decals and got a sort of a crackle black look of it hadn't attacked the paint underneath because it's cellulose I use as a base paint. It was just the varnish was useless. but the gloss varnish is fine. If you want a lovely shiny finish, the Ronseal gloss is brilliant. So for satin, what I use is some synthetic car paint varnish, which are mixed up in, and then you just thin it down with synthetic thinners, and that works.
I tend to use Tamiya, a lot of acrylic paints now, so I use Tamiya.
Yeah.
But I've used the Vallejo gloss, but I struggle sometimes. I get quite a lot of orange peel.
Vallejo, or whatever you want to call it. I think the Spanish pronounce it Vallejo.
Okay.
I've seen lots of forums on the modelling side that they just don't rate it for spraying or varnishes. It's fine for brush painting, but they're not happy. I mean, they do like a dual range. They do a paint you can spray straight away and paint you brush with. But now I think you're onto a loser. The best one, same as you found yourself, is Tamiya. Tamiya's satin and Tamiya's matte. It's the mattest matte I've come across so far.
Yeah, to be fair, the Vallejo matte, I use that a lot, and that goes on lovely. That one is lovely to use.
Yeah.
But you can get away with matte because matte's a bit more forgiving. But gloss is a difficult one.
Yeah, it's either that or satin. I mean, you're trying to get a finish that's a nice satin finish, and that's the difficult part. It's so this. I'll show you what I've done this morning. I mean that is cellulose painted, and then that's this synthetic satin varnish. It's I can get me light to sort of see if I can turn it down a bit so it doesn't. Is that a bit better?
Yeah, you got a nice shiny over there, Martyn.
Yeah, it's a nice smooth finish. But I say when you're doing 10 of these and 5 of those, which are the roofs for them, you'd use an absolute ton of paint. Well, I would say paint, but little bottles of 10ml bottles of Tamiya paint. So now.
Yeah.
When you're painting that sort of area, it's a bit of a non-starter. But yeah, I thought I was going to have trouble this time. I've got another little model I'm working on, a lining job for a Great Central Loco. So once the decals are on there, I've got to paint that. So at least I know which paint to put on it now. Avoid the Ronseal satin that's going in the bin next week. So I don't use it.
Never again.
Yeah, no, never again. Never again. It's a nightmare. And also, what happened in November, that was only part of the problem, because the workshop I'm sitting in here is like the back end or 3/4 of the garage. The other part, which is that way, it's really confusing me. The front part, I've got my spray booth set up with a proper extraction unit. Well, in the summer, it's like about 150 degrees in there, and I have to use air conditioning. And in the winter, it's about -10. And that was the problem, is the paint. I have to bring the paint into this area for a couple of days to warm up, and then use plenty of heating of the morning to bring it up to temperature. So, yeah, the fun parts of modelling for other people.
Yeah, the thing is, when you do it for yourself, if it's not quite right, you can sometimes cover it up and you can live with it. But when you're doing it for somebody else, it's got to be.
It's got to be right. Yeah, they're paying you money to do it, and they're expecting a half decent finish. I mean, I'm nowhere near the Ian Rathbones of the painting, but I do try my hardest to sort of get things as close to a factory finish as what I can. Yeah. But then, of course, most of the customers want them weathered heavily, so it just helps.
It does. You can cover a lot of sins with. You
can cover some mistakes up with weathering.
So, when you do your weathering, do you use like well match paints like Sleeper Grime, or do you? Are you a bit more like
the life colour sets? They're not in here; they're in the other room, so I can't run and fetch them. I should have got those in. I use the life colour sets, which are acrylic with an HPC airbrush on low pressure, and various other things. I mean, not so much in the model railway, although I've used it a bit. I've got these floory washes, and they're clay-based, water-based things. They're brilliant. You have various different. Oh, this is getting ridiculous. various different shades, and you can put them on, and if it looks wrong, you just wash them off.
Yeah.
So that they're not permanent, so you can mess around with those. But what I do, the system I work is everything's done in cellulose. So then if whatever I'm putting on in the next layer is like if I do lining or anything like that, it's in umbral synthetic, which you can wipe off with white spirit. So if you make a mistake, it's not a problem to rub it all out, even if it's gone dry, without affecting the cellulose. And then the weathering is all in acrylic. Yeah. So again, if I need to wash it off, I can wash it off in acrylic, and it doesn't wash off the umbral synthetic.
Yeah, and
I've got to ruin it all with varnish on top of that.
I suppose that's a good thing with the floor washes, really. Is being a clay wash, if you do cock it up completely, you just wash it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can manipulate the wash with a bit of kitchen towel and spit, really.
Yeah.
Reactivate it and bring it back to life. And
yeah,
I've used the stuff and it's good stuff.
It's great. I mean, I use it a lot on the plastic models that I build. Because my other hobbies, like Airfix kit type thing. Well, say Airfix kits are very expensive kits that I tend to buy nowadays. So when you're weathering with those, it's a different. Slightly different again. I mean, you can still use. I mean, the other things I've got is like these AK pencils, which I've recently, but that's mainly for like the military modelling that I do, and so it's just loads of combinations. There's no weathering technique that's the perfect one. It's what suits you, how you get to that part of it. You go and watch the likes of Roger Manton do his weathering. I mean, it's superb. One of the best loco weatherers that you'll find, but you can achieve that different to how he does in other ways and come up with similar results. So each to their own.
Yeah, we did a video with Roger because Roger did something for us for the virtual event, and it was great to go spend an afternoon with and watch him work, especially with an airbrush. But again, he's not just the airbrush. He's using powders. He's using washes. It's building all the layers up and to get a result, really, rather than just
This is it. It's you got to remember, you can't do it all with one medium. I mean, when I see some of the stuff that gets sold, mainly in the double O thing area, and it's all done with airbrush and stuff like that. And it looks good, but full well if they took a bit more time and used powders and various other mediums, they could achieve a slightly different result. But it looks good now.
Yeah.
And you can spend as long doing weathering on a loco or a model as you do on building and painting the darn thing.
Absolutely. In fact, you can spend longer, really. I tend to take longer doing the weathering than you do actually building it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So, also with you've also used the sanding sticks, haven't you, with flooring models?
Oh yeah. I was just saying to Andy before we came on live, Flory, the chap who does the washes, he does various grades of sanding sticks, and I use them both on the plastic models, and the beauty is with these what they call skinny sticks is that here I go again. Left, right, and right's left, up, down's up, and up's down. And you can cut the ends off as they wear down or they get clogged up, and you've got like a new end. And if you've got like an awkward gap to get in, you can use a craft knife and slice a shape to sort of get in between something. But one thing I found, a model I'm doing at the moment, a mosquito, 132nd mosquito, I got some glue on the canopy, and we all do it. I mean, and it happens, and this can apply in the O gauge when you're glazing and you get a bit of glue on the glass. And the two sticks that I use, or I've found work, is two of the florist sticks. I'll get some clean ones out, not the dirty ones. Some I should have prepared earlier, but never mind. And this one has got a nice, that's probably the roughest you'd use to take off the worst of it, very gently. Then this one, says he, oh, come on, where are we? Come back. Yeah, there's two sides to it. I call it smooth and smoother. So you use the roughest of the smooth ones to get the majority of it off, and then use the other one to polish it. And
Yeah.
it gets rid of the paint and brings the glazing up just like new. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, I've done that with, you know, about frosted glass. I've sanded it and polished it. And just use a bit, again, just a bit of spit on the plastic, and you can get a really nice, you know, shine. Polish it up. The other thing I've been told is toothpaste works quite well as well.
Yeah, it's a cutting paste. In fact, I might have some proper canopy paste in here somewhere. Oh God, I'm looking now. It's in here somewhere. Oh, where do you can get this done? Bought this many years ago. The IPMS was another group I'm member of, International Plastic Model Society, and I bought this. It's canopy polish. And it's the same stuff I think as they use on fighter aircraft, because most of their canopies are like plexiglass. And that's so they actually polish all the marks there, because they get like, you know, bits of stuff hit them, and they polish with. I would say a cousin of mine used to be a painter in the RAF, and he used to get some amazing sanding materials, mediums. They used to use on the canopies. But yeah, that's you know, just a very fine cutting paste.
Yeah.
I don't know what make it is. There's no name on it. It just says final touch canopy polish, but.
Worth a look though, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's a toothpaste. Is another one you can use. It's a very fine cutting paste. That's all it is.
That's good. I found a lot, you know, watching other modelers, and you know, whether it's armor modeling or aircraft modeling, it's very good for transfer of skills and learning different skills and different techniques to bring to you to railway modeling.
Well, it is. I mean, when I was a kid, sort of 5, I suppose, I used to make airfix kits, you know, 5-minute kits, and everything I've done through my life there's been some sort of modelling, aircraft modelling, you know, radio control stuff, and all sorts of bits and pieces. But yeah, it's skills that go from one to another. I mean, I know some people think there's railway modelling is some unique to itself, but it's not. There's loads of stuff that you do that if you do plastic modelling, airfix kits and stuff like that, you use exactly the same techniques. And I mean, obviously, the thing that you don't do very often is solder.
Yeah.
But never, you know, there's some of these kits now, especially some of the big warships, they do. A group called Pontos, they do like etch and sort of wooden decks. And the etch, it's incredible when you think these little guns you can fold up and make out of etched brass. Oh no. I'd rather do an gauge kit.
Yeah, give you a piece of plastic any day rather than brass or metal.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you've obviously we spoke about in the past is Hornby Live Steam. Yeah.
How I got into that, I mean, because at one point I sold all my 00 many years ago because I was never going to use it again, and a friend of mine, lifelong friend, we were school friends, and we're still friends now. And you know, God, it must be over nearly 50 years. And he was mad on Live Steam. You know, he always wanted one. When Toy Master that closed down some years back, they were selling the stuff off for about £350, and he said, I almost bought one. Well, a few years back, he was 60, and we'd been to a couple of model railway shows, Doncaster and whatever, and there was a group there called the OO Live Steam Club, and they've got like a big test track. That's basically it is. And they've got loads of these things running around, and the chap Adrian who does the voice, you know, he's the one that's got the public speaking voice, and he encourages the kids to come forward and actually drive these things, because you have to learn to drive them. They're not something like electric one. You get it out of the box, stick it on the circular track, and switch it off and off it goes. You've got to learn to drive them like a real loco, and they are hot and dangerous. So don't try catching hold of one. So I managed to procure one for him, second-hand one, because I mean, anybody that puts on eBay and says brand new, never been used, they are 20 years old, so they're still second-hand. They're never brand new. And I got him this layout, and unfortunately, I then ended up buying one myself. I've now got about, I think, 7 locos. So my little project when I get time, which I don't seem to get much of, is building a sort of a test track for myself. for my conservatory to run the darn things.
So, do you think Hornby made full potential of that, or do you think it was sort of?
No. It came at a very strange time. I mean, being a member of the Live Steam Club now myself, and it's free to join. It's one of the freest things in the world. If you want to be a member of the OO Live Steam Club, just go online and join it. Loads of information if you're going to buy one before you buy it on the do's and don'ts and how to run it. And I think what it was is the way they marketed the thing, because it was, if you read their manual, you'll break the Loco.
Okay.
It's the track they give you. It's a circle of second radius, it's second or third radius track, and in the manual it tells you the minimum radius is 4th radius. Yet they're giving you a circular track of 3rd radius, and you need to put it on a surface where you've got edges, because if it falls off the track, which it can do, if it rockets away, it's going to be diving onto the floor. And a lot of these layouts where sets where people have had them, they've got it out the ones, fired it up, it's gone off the track, they've tried to catch it, burnt the hands because they haven't got the gloves on. Even with the gloves on you can get a burn, and they've dented on, damaged on the floor, and they just put it away, never use it again. So what they should have done, they should have marketed it with a rolling road, so as the Loco's captive, it's not going anywhere. So if it does go out of control, it's not going to hurt itself, it's not going to hurt you. So a rolling road is important to learn to drive them, and they're just great fun because it's real. You can, if you've got one set up properly, you can actually shunt with them just about.
Okay.
You can back onto stock, because I've done it on the OO Live Steam layout. I'm hoping when I've got mine done, I'll be able to do the same, but we'll see.
That'd be interesting to see. If is it going to be a permanent layout, or is it going to be an exhibition layout you're going to do?
I could take it. I could bring it to the club and set it up so people could see it. That's the idea. It's got to be one I can take apart, because I'm not allowed to use the conservatory unless I'm allowed to use it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. She must be obeyed.
It must be obeyed. Pulled the face the other day when I said I'm going to build it, so because we've got a 3-piece suite in the conservatory. Just let people know that the conservatory is 24 foot by 14. It's big. Yeah. So I can set this layout up and still walk around it. So I don't want to move the furniture, so I'm going to build the legs long enough where it'll be sort of above the height of a settee. And the plan is it'll be a double loop, and on the straight side there'll be 4 tracks, 2 passing loops on both sides. Now I am building in the possibility, if I get the time and the inclination, that one end of it could be Wellington railway station.
Okay.
That's 4 tracks. So I may, you just never know. If I feel like it, I'll get the time.
So will both tracks be for live steam, or because you can't run it with DC or DCC, can you?
No. What I should do, I should build the 2 loops on separate bus bars. So in effect, I could run DC or DCC on one, and live steam on the other. Although it's more like using live steam both ways. And then if I want to run DCC, you just put a different set of controllers into it.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Yeah, but no, don't mix the two. They run on 17 volts, which is similar to DCC. It's AC, but you could put DC locos or the other way around, because how it works on live steam, it pulses the electricity. A lot of people say when they see the actual locos, here's one I prepared earlier. There's an electric motor in there, and people think that's what powers it, but it's not. How it works is there's your tank of water. Underneath is a heater, and then the hot water goes through that pipe. That's the relief valve, and then there's your whistle. That bit on the top is the superheater, and that gets really hot, mega hot. And then your regulator is that bit. Oh, here we go. Underneath.
Underneath.
So when you're operating it, as you operate the controller, it makes the little motor just turn slightly, which advances or retires the regulator. So then the regulator allows the steam to flow through the steam chest. Oh, come on, there you go, into the pistons. And then you get your motion. So it is a live steam. It works like a real loco. And the electric part of it is just you operating the regulator.
Yeah. Paul,
the problem being, this is why I say you shouldn't run it on a track unless you're able to protect the loco from itself or yourself, is if you get a short and its regulator's open in the open direction, it'll take off and you've got no way of stopping it until it falls off the track or you try and catch it.
Okay.
So that's the fun part. That's the problem with the electrics. If you do get them short, which they do occasionally, I'm having a bit of fun with a board on one of them where it keeps shorting out. I'm trying to find out which part it shorts out, but that's another story.
We had a comment from a guy named Paul. He said, live stream brings excitement to model railways. Just remember, 4th radius minimum and at least 4 coaches, then it's almost controllable.
Yeah, that's right. The best way to sort of learn, if you've got a layout where you've got edges, like a strip of wood all the way around the edge, so if your stock comes off, it's not going to fall on the floor, then okay, if the loco falls over, the worst it's going to do is just carry on running till it runs out of steam. If you put a coach on the back of it, at least you've got something to grab hold of rather than try and grab an hold of the loco if it's doing something it shouldn't. So he's quite correct, and that is one of the mantras of the OO Live Steam Club and how to operate them.
Do you think Hornby will ever revisit live steam? And
no, not at all. Going back to it, I mean, the way it works is like, excuse my back a minute. That's an A4, which is your mallards and things, and then this one is slightly different. It's an A3. They're slightly narrower, as you can see. The A3 is narrower. Come back, right? So they're slightly different steam chests and things. So not all the parts are compatible with each one. That was because the A3 is a narrower boiler. But where they were going next with it is the chap who designed it, who invented it, the engineer, Morris. No? Oh, I forget his name. He's got a Black 5. And when Hornby went bust, this prototype model of his was in China, because they take them and they remodel them to make them sort of marketable in the commercial world. So the boards and things that are on these locos are not the ones that he's designed. It's just the principle they've used. Yeah. He managed to get it back. He was worried that he wasn't going to get his loco back. So the next loco would have been, had they have not gone bust, would have been a Black 5. And it would have had a working whistle. He designed it so as where the whistle blows on this. When you're going from forward to reverse, you have to go, the regulator has to go 180 degrees to change direction. And there's a little like hook that turns a gear that changes the gear from forward to reverse. And as it's doing that, it blows the whistle. So when the whistle blows, you know you've gone past. So you go on a bit more till the whistle stops, and then you're in either the forward or reverse gear opposite to where you were. So his idea was to actually make it so he got it working so the whistle would work as a whistle as well.
Okay.
But no, they'll never go back into it. They've even stopped servicing the locos now. There was a AC Models in Southampton bought up the stock, and the man, his main job apparently is building indoor kart tracks. You know, that's his main thing. This is like a sideline. AC Models. He's training Sky Electric thing in Southampton, Eastleigh. And occasionally he was selling lots of spares on eBay, and I bought tons of them. I must have about £1,000 worth of spares. And he also selling those two locos there that are in bits. They're what he calls repair, non-runners spares. And I've got them working by buying. It'd have been cheaper to have bought another full set of locos. I mean, you pay sort of 250, 300 for a non-working one, then put all the bits back on it, and think, I could have gone and bought a complete set for 500 quid. which probably would have been cheaper. So those are drying up. The Live Steam Club are remanufacturing a lot of the spares where they can. So there's still a limited amount of Hornby spares available, but they are trying as hard as they can to manufacture as many as they can to keep them going, basically. And there's loads out there. I mean, the last show we had at the NEC, I partied with, well, luckily the wife's at work, so we won't know this. I think it's £450 I bought a set that had never worked before. It's never been used, so it was as brand new, other than the fact that the wheels probably sort of perished, which were changed. And then I bought a set of controllers, because that's, again, there's no spares for the controllers, so when they pack up, that's it.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've got 4 sets of controllers.
That should keep you going for a few years, hopefully.
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, I'll have amass all this stuff, and I keep saying to my kids, when I snuff it, whatever you do, don't just dispose of my stuff. Research what it is, because there's a lot of stuff in this workshop that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. I know when I spoke to Simon was very fond of the live stream. I think he was very proud that Hornby actually achieved, actually achieved it. And I know I looked at it several times, but it's one of the things, I've always said, if they brought out a GWR King, I'd have dumped it. I'd have snapped it straight away. But because it was the A3s and A4s, it was.
I think the reason for doing that was that they were the biggest, especially A4s. That was one of the biggest bodies. I mean, the only other one that would have been a bigger body would have been LMS Streamline, a Stania, which I've got a kit to try and put on. One of these when I get time, will have a Stania Loco over the top of it, although the chassis won't be correct. So there is a possibility, had they have gone down and got the Black 5 running, then you would have had a Great Western Loco. They know that themselves. The Great Western Loco would have sold in the bucket loads, because anybody that you meet, majority of people are Great Western modelers when it's steam. So yeah, that was the trick they had to miss, purely because they couldn't get at the time the components inside that small Loco.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a shame.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things. Hopefully, one day someone will pick it up again and they'll take it forward. I
doubt it. I mean, it's moved forward. There's one of the chaps in the Live Steam Club. He converted one of the Locos to Bluetooth. He got one of these little radio control minis. Yeah. And it was quite a small board, and I wonder, and he's actually taken out the control board that's in the Loco and managed to sort of put the Bluetooth one in, so he can actually operate it off his phone, because this mini came with an app to work off your iPhone. Okay. It's quite impressive, because that is one of the big problems with it, is that when the boards go, all the boards are sold now. There's no spares. And that's why I'm trying my hardest to get this one that I've got faulty working. But unfortunately, there's no way of getting them remanufactured. Yeah. There's one of the chaps on the Scale 7. Main Street, but he's into electronics, because he does the Merg. And I showed him one of the boards, and he came back to me and he said, "Well, I can do it, but there's a component, it's got no markings on it, so we haven't got a clue what it is. Until we know what it is, we can't make the board, because it means the board would be meaningless without this proper component." So that's the problem you've got.
Absolutely. Another Paul's been on again. He said he had Mallard. Mallard fall off the track first run. Luckily, I'd put some cushions down on the floor to catch it. Yeah. No damage. Took 5 minutes before the wheels stopped turning.
Yeah, because it's boiled water. It's going to carry on running. If they do, I've had them come off the track when I've run it at the Live Steam Club, but theirs is all set up to catch Locos. They've got a sort of a 50mm of ply sticking up around the edge, so if they come off, the Loco can't go hurtling off the side and onto the floor.
He's also put Hornby was best from 2000 to 2007, only downhill since then. They were equal to anyone. Changes of Chinese factories and management still affecting production now.
I think the problem was with Hornby's when they got took over by
Tesco's.
and it went from being a manufacturing organisation like when Simon was running it originally to just another money milking machine. I would imagine with time, the way things are going now in the world, that there's a possibility you might see some of the manufacturing of the toy industry coming back this way, because China's got to be getting to a stage where it's just too expensive to build and ship stuff. Although they've got some fantastic technologies over there, the cost must be phenomenal.
Yeah,
you never know.
It's got to be one of them, isn't it? You know, it's not going to happen overnight, but I think it will happen over time. I think because I think even Airfix now are starting to reproduce some of their models are reproduced back in this country now, and
I think some of it done in India. I think they've got some of it done in India. That's what they've moved. They've moved away, or some of it to be moved away, because we had a shocking some of the umbral paints. Because I mean, I'm a sort of a long in the tooth enamel paint man. You know, acrylic is sort of dark art to me, and I think they had a shocking batch of paint just after they went bust and they started up again. The paint after that was appalling, but it's changed again. I mean, the stuff I've been using to line the red on this great central loco I'm doing, it's Umbral 8, number 19, the red, and it's beautiful. It runs absolutely beautiful.
Well, what I found with Hornby paint is since I've started using Mr.
Oh,
Colour,
yeah.
It's Hornby paint is lovely with that. I wouldn't use their thinners, but it does go on lovely with that.
Yeah, a lot of the model forums or the YouTubers I watch, again, especially Nigel, he'd drink that stuff. I think he must drink it, and he uses it in a lot of different paints. I have got some of it, but again, it's one of these things. I've got some synthetic thinners, industrial synthetic thinners, and I put that in the umbral paint, and it works just as well. So, but no, umbral thinners, umbral varnishes. The stuff that comes in the bottles, it's rubbish, absolute rubbish. I've never successfully sprayed it yet. It always comes out white.
Yeah, it's quite the thinners are very aggressive. It's quite a hard stuff to use, really. It's good for taking paint off, but not for putting paint on.
Yeah. But they say the umbral varnish. I bought 3 bottles, matte, satin, and gloss. And I've tried all of it, and all I've done is ended up ruining the models I've put it on.
Yeah.
So I only ruined one. I then spray it on sort of pieces of plastic that I've got paint sprayed on already. So and it just goes white. I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah, it's like almost like a salt stain almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rubbish. It's clear, crystal clear, thin as you like. You think, oh, this is going to be good. It'll spray straight out the bottle. It don't matter what pressure you put, turn the pressure right down or whatever. It just goes milky white.
Yeah, it is strange. Paul's commented saying Hornby paint is now from the UK, which I'm sure Simon. I'm sure when we said Simon last time, he said he was bringing manufacturing back to the UK for the paint.
That's probably why. Because I mean, the paints that are coming in now, says he pick one up, is they're coming with here I go again. Like a spot on, so if the spot's got the tins of paint, you're in trouble. And that, I found most of those new tins have been quite good. There's been 1 or 2. They've been greys where they've sort of mixed up all right, but they go on like opaque.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not as good as it was. I mean, I've got some paints. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. That must be older than me. I've got one here, cherry paints.
Oh my life!
Yeah, Rail Match bought those up. I'm sure I've got some umbral paint here somewhere. Oh, here's it. Yeah, about this one. Yeah, that is older than me. And that is a lead-based paint, but it's absolutely beautiful to paint. It's a cream, and for doing side cabs and stuff on me, gauge.
Okay.
That is absolutely brilliant. It's just so it's like, say, it's like painting cream, and it just, all the brush marks disappear.
Yeah.
Of course, it's lead based, so don't suck it.
But that's the problem nowadays with because it's very health conscious.
Yeah.
Some of the techniques you could get away with don't work because the paints aren't as good as they used to be.
No.
Yeah.
Even the automotive industry now, all the cars that are painted with water-based paints.
Yeah.
Except for the lacquers, they haven't got a water-based lacquer yet, so they still lacquer them with like synthetic paint.
But
yeah.
I suppose it's one of the things we're going to have to. Well, we will have to live with.
Well, you do, because if you go into, you're going to spray some. Not as many people do it nowadays. You know, do a bit of spray painting on the side of your car, and you want to go and use cellulose to spray it. They won't say, they're not allowed to sell you cellulose paint for spraying cars anymore.
In case you hurt yourself.
It's illegal. No, it's illegal.
Yeah.
The car, if the car is finished in water-based paint, that's what it's going to be refinished in. You can't use synthetic paints on it. They won't sell them you. If it's an old car, you can. But if it's a newer car, that's synthetic-based paint, water-based paint, they're not allowed under the law to sell you the paint. You know, the synthetic paints, you can buy water-based paints, but of course you need the process to do it. You can't just do it in the back garage sort of thing. It's difficult.
Definitely, yeah. So have you sort of, are you using Tamiya paints and acrylic paints now, or?
Yeah, I use some in modelling. I mean, so the sort of recent models I've made. Oh, chuck the pilot off. So that is a mixture of Tamiya paints and Umbral paints, which I find are great. Oh dear, I've just snapped the aerial off. There you go. Typical. Sticky out bits fall off. I'll find it eventually. Yeah, what I'm going to get a load of are the new, what they call it, what's the new range of paints that Tamiya brought out? Lacquer
paints.
I've heard loads of the comments on YouTube, modelers that do the videos, and they're using the lacquer paints, and they paint straight out and they only need a small amount of thinners in to spray. And they spray
again, I just used a touch of that just to take the edge off, really, more than anything. But,
yeah,
I've used the. Where's the lacquers? I can't find them now. There you go. I got the LP 46 and LP 7. So one is that's the right way.
Yeah.
So one is just a gloss red, and the other was what's it called when you got it's not just one gloss red, it's like a
metal flake. It's like got like a metal like a pearlescent.
Like a pearlescent paint.
Yeah.
But I found the normal gloss red was a dream. It was so easy to use. The pearlescent was a bit harder. And when I was painting the bonnet, it was very easy to get sort of orange pearl on it. Bonnets are always difficult anyway, aren't they?
Well, they are, but if you get orange pearl, it could be a paint's too thick. So you could have perhaps done with thinning it a bit more.
Yeah. The problem is you tend to go around the outside and then go across the middle. Or if I go around the across, well, that's how I've always done it. But then if you're not careful, you end up putting too much paint down in the middle of the bonnet. But
I mean, what you need to do if you got like a bonnet that's got a hump in the middle, spray it one direction either side and front, and then if you can get the bonnet sort of almost upright, spray it, bottom to top or top to bottom, whichever is your preference, to get the paint even. Do it in a couple of layers even.
Yeah, just work thin layers and add to it slowly.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the normal lacquer was lovely to use, dead easy, and definitely recommend it. To worth a try.
Yeah, I haven't used them yet, so I keep saying I'll get round to it. I'm going to get in touch with Laurie up at the MM1 because he does the paints and get a full set off him. Because I fancy doing a motorbike. I've got no interest in motorbikes whatsoever, but I saw one of the chap called Andy Zobby. He's American. He sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Okay.
But his modelling build was about 35, 40 minutes, so that they're fairly quick. And he's using the lacquer paint, and he built, I don't know, I think it was Kawasaki or something. They're all the same to me, 2 wheels and a bit of plastic stuck around them. And it looked absolutely fantastic. And they say he'd used the red pearlescent. And what he found is if you top the jar up to the bottom of the threads on the neck, that's just the right amount of to thin it for spraying, and it looked absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. What do you use as a primer normally? Because I tend just to use Tamiya paint, just because I find it really bomb-proof.
I mean, to be quite honest, when I'm doing plastic models, I rarely prime them. I just paint straight onto the plastic, unless it's a dark plastic. Then I'll use Alfred's, rattle can. But what if I'm doing the O gauge stuff? I use etch primer, but I use etch primer that you mix like you would in a car shop.
Okay.
Then I put grey primer on top of that because you only need a very, very fine coat of etch primer. You haven't got to do like a full coat. You can still see the brass sort of glinting through a little bit. Just give it. But the secret with that is to give it a day, and if you can, a couple of days or more to bite in. Let the etching bite in before you put the primer or paint on top of it, because as soon as you put another coat of paint on, then it stops the etching process working.
Okay.
And then after that, it's whatever colour. Usually, it's all in cellulose. But I say with plastic models, I've got a 1/32 Mosquito Revell. It's an old model. Fits where it touches. I've had to use half a ton of filler on it. But I should just give that a whiz over with Alfred's primer.
Yeah.
And then just flat it back and then paint it the colours that the greys and the green.
Yeah, I've got a Revell Shackleton I'm building for somebody.
Right.
And I've had it for 2 years now. But that's one hell of a lot of fillers gone into that.
Yeah.
Just to get the joints to look nice. But
yeah,
I keep, because it's size, I just keep putting it off. It's just like, I'll do it next week.
Yeah, I know. I've got a model there on the pile. It's a Tamiya 148 Corsair, and I've got every edition you can get. I think I must have spent about 100 quid on etch brass and God knows what. I had it for my 40th birthday, and as I told you earlier, I'm 65 now, and I still haven't finished it. One day.
Yeah, it's definitely. So, but yeah, it's one of them things you pick up and think, I'll do it next week, and then you put it back down again. And I don't know the little mod. No, I've got a little Willie's Jeep here, and I think I built it and painted it in a day. And that's fine with me. I love doing something like that because you just pick it up, do it. But then when you get models that you're taking, once it starts taking longer than a week, you think.
Yeah, you see some of these modelers and they build them in like days, and you think, how the hell did you do that? But my concentration level is pretty poor at the moment. Well, it's getting old, and so I'll have an hour here and an hour there, and I'll lose interest and go watch a bit of telly.
Yeah.
But recently I built a Sherman tank in 135. That is what's got into military modelling. And they're called Royfield models.
Okay.
They're amazing kits. The tracks are individual parts, so you've got all the links work. It's almost like a bracelet when you put it together. I mean, the wheels don't go round, but for how it hangs on the rollers and things, unbelievable. Yeah. So just something different.
I did. I've got a 135th Tiger, a cameo one, and it's a lovely model. But I got as far as doing the tracks, and like, I think I started, and I was just pulling my hair out. And so again, it's one of them things. One day I will finish it, but it's just I just got to pick it up and do the tracks, and it's like nightmare.
Yeah. It is. I mean, the thing I found with the military modelling side of it is it's not like doing other types of modelling where you're painting the interiors and things before you paint the outside. You sort of just put it all together and paint it as one whole thing.
Yeah.
I've watched a few people on YouTube doing them. I think, how have you achieved that? I'd have to spray that in several parts to do what you've done. You've just, everything's together. The turret's on. You've just painted it all in one go. Wheels and all of it. Oh, different world.
Again, but they seem to get the results, don't they? They seem to get a really nice finish. And again, it's a lot of washes and sort of picking out the detail with a brush once you've just give it a general coat. And well, again,
that's I mean, you get into things. I was talking to you about the panel washes, the pin washes. That's why I bought these for the like, plastic modelling to try them in the panel lines. I should try them on when I did those couches I've just done. I shall use some of the panel washes, pin line on that, just to highlight the door front. Yeah,
I've started using again just Tamiya black paint mixed with some water in a bottle cap, and that works quite well. And again, you can sort of put it onto the roof and let it run and dry off, and you get the nice sort of streaking on the roof as well, which works really well.
Yeah, there's just dozens of techniques. I mean, you could talk to 30 modelers who do weathering, and you get 30 different ways of doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So whatever works for you. Don't be frightened to have a go at it. Is my motto.
Definitely, yeah.
If it don't work, throw it away.
Absolutely, have another go. Don't do something different next time.
Yeah.
So before we finish, you sent me some video of the live stream, so we just have that playing and
just have it playing. I'll try and explain what it is.
So there you go.
Okay, this is an A3 chassis on the rolling road. The control unit behind where it says Hornby, the bit in the middle is the regulator. And what I'm doing with my hand, I'm using a remote box that the OO Live Steam Club do as a kit. So in effect, what I'm doing is flicking the regulator every time I press that one of the buttons. So if you haven't got that, you'll be actually flicking that little brass arm at the top. The video is not running as it should because of the lost in translation from me to Andy, but this one should slow down to almost walking pace. And with a lot of these live steam locos, you have to learn to shoot. That's all right. Sometimes when the whistle blows, it just takes all the steam in one go and just stops the wheels going round. So speeding it up, and then I should be slowing it down now with the other one. And then I think, if I remember right, this video, I'll put it into the opposite direction, which is reverse, because it is actually going forward. I think it stopped. This is where the toothpick comes in. Because the wheels are plastic spokes, don't use a screwdriver, use something soft like a toothpick.
Yeah.
Just to push it over the centre. This is where if it's on a track and it stops, you just push the coach. And then you see it comes down quite slow. That's the whistle going off as a change from forward to reverse, and then it should start running backwards. But the bit you can see spinning in the middle behind the wheels is the gear, the timing shaft. And the brass gear on it is what the forward and reverse pin operates. The black thing is the timing block. There's two screws that go against pins on the timing shaft, and you adjust those to adjust the timing motion. And you can get them running really slow, and you can get them running really fast as well.
Yeah.
But one of the big problems with the live steam is that the average person that buys them, it's not like buying a Loco. And you know full well people who buy loads of double O Locos, they don't know how to service them. You know, they can run them, they can oil the wheels and stuff like that, but taking the bodies off is a nightmare. So imagine what it is if you like that and you try and take a body off a live steam to see what's inside and try and do any maintenance on it.
But I suppose the other problem is, Martin, I suppose it's a lot of people my age and younger, the generation who just plug it in and it works.
Yeah.
You know, I can go back to computer games when as a kid we'd have a computer game and wait 15 minutes for the game to load, and then there's no guarantee the game would work.
Spectrum.
Basically, yeah. So I've got, I suppose, some patience built into me. So when you turn something on, there's no guarantee it's going to work. Whereas I suppose youngsters nowadays, they plug it in, it works straight away. So when it doesn't work straight away, it's like, this is, chuck it over. I don't want this anymore.
Well, I think with the live stream, it's a bit different. A majority of people who could afford to buy these weren't sort of kids, or there were people like, late 40s, 50s, people coming to retirement, and they saw them. They'd had Hornby all their life as a kid. They weren't really willing to spend the money on DCC, and this was coming out roughly at the same time as the DCC, the old 01 and things were about. So they took a punt at those, and I think through a lot of them, because they weren't technically minded in how it run, and so the instructions that came with them were not very good at all. I've been on the Live Steam Club layout playing with its shows, mainly Doncaster, and the amount of people have gone, "Oh, I had one of those, but it fell off the table. I put it back in the box. I've never used it since." But then they have a go with it on the one on the outside ring, and they realise how sort of easy they are to operate. And, well, I'm going to get this out when I get home, give it a go.
Paul's just made another comment. He says, I've been watching Model Railway channel since March last year. I've learned more in the last 75 minutes. Proper model conversations, unbiased recommendations. Really interesting. Keep it up. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Paul.
So, if you're around, Paul, come to the club and you can have a proper chat in the club.
That's right. So, or if you live in the Telford area, come to Telford Club.
Absolutely. Or just find your local club and get involved.
Yeah, in the club, get stuck in with it.
Absolutely. It's the best way to learn. I learn more, I learn a lot watching YouTube as well, but it's nice to come and meet in the club and have a good chat. And
it is. I think it's like at our show, when I first got involved with the show at the NEC, I did a few years of doing demonstrations, various things, but just talking to people. And I think that's the problem, is that some of the demonstrations may seem too highbrow without trying to sort of upset people. But sometimes you just need people to talk to. And I think our club stand is where we've sort of pushed into that, where we've got people on the stand who want to talk like we do, just talk to people in general and try and help them out if they're having difficulty.
And that's the main thing, really. It's all about sharing skills and mucking in and learning off of people and getting involved. I know I've learned a lot from you with O-Gauge. That first 25 I built, you really were. It's a big learning curve from an Airfix kit.
They are. They are good kits, but they do take a lot of work.
I know my 37 somewhere. It's behind me. And I'm up to there now, and it's. But again, it's one of them. I'm up to the stage where I've got to fit the handrails, and I just keep putting the handrails off, but I can't move on to anything else till I get at least the dry fit on the handrail, so I can fit them in, take them off, paint it, and then refit them. But I'll get there eventually. It'll be done, and then I can build the bogies up and get the motors. So I've got everything now. You just time.
Yeah, it is. It's just getting around to doing it. I mean, I've got a 10,000. I've got the motors, the wheel. I've got all sorts of research. And that's because it's one of these things. It's the bottom of my pile because the 4F was on the top of it. I've got an auto coach, again MM1 models. Well, now which I thought the real thing, but lorry stuff. And I've painted the sides and everything and the ends and finished them. But that's as far as it's got because my modelling time is limited because of doing stuff for other people.
Yeah.
But when I want to sort of kick back and do something, I'd rather run live Steam or build an Airfix kit. I've got so many projects for myself; it's unreal.
So you've got the five Mark IIs you've almost finished.
Yeah.
Are you going to get some modelling time for yourself now once these are done, or have you got more projects coming in?
Well, once this line and painting job of the Great Central Loco and those 5 coaches are finished, I'll then move on to a couple more O gauge kits, but this time something a bit different. Connoisseur kits, guards. I'm doing it again. Which one goes up? Which one goes down?
Up.
A Toad and an LMS brake van, and the other one I've got. So again, it's for another customer, and it's a very old Vulcan kit of the Shunter's truck, Great Western Shunter's truck. So I'm looking forward to building that one. Something a bit different. And then there's other things. I've got the chap who's Loco I'm lighting, giving me a Loco because he's had enough building it himself. So I've got to finish building that and paint it. So that's another job. And somebody gave me a Dapol 1400 yesterday, and he wants it changing from BR black to Great Western green. Why didn't buy the damn thing as Great Western Loco?
Yeah, why Great Western in the first place?
So I've got that. So now I probably won't get round to doing much for myself for a while again. But at the moment, I've got sat on the shelf. You remember the old part works where you get a bit each week?
Okay, the Flying Scotsman did it.
Yeah, I did the Flying Scotsman. I'm also doing the the Mallard.
Okay.
So this one will be Dominion of Canada. And I've cut the valances off, and that'll be in BR green. So I'm determined to finish that this year. It's only been sat there in that guise for about 4 years now.
That's not doing too badly then, is it really?
No. I've got just so many parts started projects. I need to get some done. I'm stopping buying any more kits or anything until I've got it built. So I've got a pile of kits to be built.
The hatchet part work kits come up quite often on eBay, and sometimes they're quite reasonably priced. People sort of buy the set. Is it something that a novice modeler would be able to take on, or do you need to have some sort of modelling?
You need to be able to solder, because the way they design them is to glue them together with super glue. Now, if it's a static model, it'll work fine. And you've got to remember that, like myself, where I've paid whatever it was a week and spent, £9,000 for it. If you went and bought a DJH Flying Scotsman or A4, and then you bought the wheels and the motor and the decals, transfers, because it comes with a full transfer set, and the figures and the coal, you'd probably spend £1,000 there. But of course, they've modified the kit slightly from what DJH's kits are to try and make it easier to assemble or work with, because they put like a plastic tender upper structure on it rather than the white metal one. The problem with the A3 is fine because it's just like brass. The problem with that one is the motion is very, it's high quantity of steel, so it's difficult to solder the motion together. I mean, I was lucky. The one I did, I managed to solder it together, but I built a second one for someone, and I ended up getting a set of motion etch off Andy Beaton at Ragstone Models. He happened to have a few sets in, so and I did that in brass because I just couldn't solder the content of the metal that was it was in the kit. Now the A4, the problem with that, the wheels were out of quarter. They had to issue a second set of wheels, and they're not Slater's wheels, although they look like Slater's wheels. They're not as good as Slater's wheels. A lot of people have changed them, but I've managed to get them to work reasonably well for what I need them for. But the other big problem with the A4 is that all the etch is covered in like a varnish.
Okay.
And the white metal parts, the boiler structure is a very thick primer, grey primer. Well, you've got to, you'll never get the valences and the parts to go together for the boiler if you leave all the primer on. So you really need to strip it all off, and stripping the varnish off the etches is a monumental project. You know, you spend hours with what they call it, paint remover and scrubbing brushes to get it off before you can solder it. But having said that, they do make into good kits. I mean, there are some things like the lamp irons are a bit soft because they're just white metal, so you need to replace those with some cast brass ones. But if you can get one for the right price, they are good value for money.
That's right. It's definitely worth looking for, isn't it? And
yeah.
And just
I picked a second A3 up many years back off a chap in Northampton. He was, you know, in his late 70s, and he decided to sell all his man cave off because, quite rightly so, it's you know, somebody else has got to do it when you've popped your clog. So if you can do it before, you know, before you go, you can enjoy the money yourself. And I think I paid about £300 for it. It started the chassis a bit of glue on it, but I will one day get round to building it. It's in a box somewhere.
That's it. Well, it's one of the things, you buy all these kits and you've got more kits than life expectancy sometimes. Yeah. So it's just and I suppose that's the advantage for me of lockdown the last 12 months. I've just cleared so many kits, you know, in the past that I've just not got around to finishing. I just haven't done me O gauge. That's the ones I've sort of me locos I've sort of put to the back of wagons. I've put together. I've found so many wagons together recently. It's,
I think anyone that's a modeler of some description the last 12 months has probably had the best time in lockdown than anybody else. And I expect that the mental problems that people had, if they'd have had a hobby they could do like we do, then they wouldn't have been so stressed out.
Yeah. It just gets you away from the screen and
it gets your mind away from it. I mean, you think of the industries themselves, the amount of, okay, we haven't been able to get the shops, but, you know, I think Pico were a bit shocked at how their business has boomed. I mean, because at one point you couldn't get track.
No.
You know, it has been I think there's been a couple of hiccups in it. I mean, I was talking to Tower Models when I bought the track for the Telford layout a few months back. He happened to have some double O track, which is what I bought off him for my layout, because he doesn't do double O, but he bought some stuff in for a customer who never turned up to pick it up. So it was my gain and his loss, because I wouldn't have been able to get hold of the box of double O track because there just was none of it about. You know, and he was saying, he says, well, when Pico closed first time, he said there was a big sort of gap in the market, but this time around they've managed to sort of preempt it and get a stock. So yeah, I think the industry, the modelling industry, the manufacturing and stuff like that have done very well out of the lockdown, because people have spent a fortune because they can't go on holiday or they can't get the pub, so they buy kits and bits and stuff.
Absolutely. I know when I talked to Andy we talk on a Wednesday evening, and his post office runs are getting bigger and bigger. He's not really missed the show. He's doing just as much business as he normally would without going to shows, which is he
hasn't got the average, because I mean, even a one-day show, when you think of the time it takes, the early start, the fuel and all that sort of thing, and paying for the pitch in the show, he probably makes a damn sight more doing half the work from home.
Absolutely, and he's not going to do all the prep work either. He's not going to prepare X amount of kits ready for the weekend.
No, that's right.
And because you never know what you're going to sell, whether it's going to be, you know, so you have to take extra of everything just in case.
Yeah.
So
It is. I mean, I've never sort of really been in that situation. It's not really the interest to get into that type of thing. But I feel sorry sometimes for some of the traders because they go to shows, and especially like our show, the big show. I've seen O-gauge traders trying it. Oh, I'll try my arm at this, and because I think our show caters more for the people who do double O and those scales, you get a little bit of O-gauge, perhaps more so now that there's like dapole and stuff like that coming out and ready to run. But if you're a small trader in O-gauge, you find it really hard to sell your stuff at our show, I would think. You need the bespoke O-gauge shows to sell that.
Yeah, our show is more based on mainstream, but But again, because of the lot more O-gauge layouts coming around on the circuit, though, isn't there?
Yeah, and this is it. It's if you've got somebody who, saying it's somebody similar to the like Andy does, to be able to have a sort of a live shop and sell the ready to run, then you've got two dips in the market. So come into our show and be able to sell, say, a load of dapole and Elgin stuff, but also sell the stuff you make yourself, the kits and stuff. Then you've got a chance. And that's maybe some of the traders, they need to think that way.
Definitely, yeah. So in terms of the hobby, where do you think the hobby is going to go next? What do you think is going to be the next sort of market changer?
I don't know. I think the thing is, you've got to look at the age of the group. I mean, we're getting older, and you don't see so many people coming to in the 40s that had train sets when they were kids, and then want to go back to it as they've got a bit more money and less kids to worry about at home. So I think the next thing is going to be like the technology, the computer age kid, where they can sort of write programs and then run the layout as like a bit like that one in Holland where it all runs automatically. I would think that's where the model railway will go. It'll be like a step ahead of DCC. You'll have people who have, the same as the DC people was with their 100 locos, and DCC come out. Oh, I couldn't afford to get to that. So you'll have DCC people with 100 locos and the chips in it, and then the next thing comes out. Oh, I can't afford to get to that, and then that's where the kids will come along. Maybe, I don't know.
Do you think it's going to be more plug and play, or do you think it's going to be kits, modelers building stuff?
I think you haven't got the youth of people building kits like we used to, like Airfix and stuff like that. I don't think there's that sort of. You haven't got kids at school learning like woodwork, metalwork, stuff like that. They're doing more computer based work. So it'll be 3D printers. Because I mean, let's face it, if you've got a bit of technology and you can operate a computer, there's some fabulous 3D printers coming out and what you can produce. And that's what amazed me, especially in our sort of O-gauge modelling, is that the biggest annoyance for me is when you're building a kit is brake blocks. And when you're building something like a West Country or a Battle of Britain, where the brake blocks touch the wheels virtually, well, you have to fall so much off the back of them to give you a clearance that if that was plastic, it wouldn't matter. So, I think that's perhaps the technologies where we'll move into more 3D printed stuff. I mean, you look now at Steve Beattie, for example, who did a lot of resin casting kits. He's now started moving it into the 3D, and it looks better. And I think he's making it quicker than he was casting, and probably a lot cheaper. So I think you'll see a move to 3D printed stuff in the sort of market where we are that buy stuff to build.
I think Laurie's doing that because Laurie's changed a lot of his brass etch parts to plastic 3D printed, hasn't he?
Yeah. It's got to be better because I mean, again, they're absolutely exquisite, the brass castings that you get. But when you come to brake blocks, it's a nightmare because with DCC, again, another side story, you get somebody coming to you with a DC Loco, it runs perfect. Can you put a chip in it for me? And the times I've done that, and I've had to rebuild the chassis because DC will take quite a lot of short without it causing any effect. But DCC will not. If you have even like almost like an hair's width of touch, will be enough to trip the chip.
Yeah.
So I think if more kit manufacturers who do stuff that I build, or even in double O or Engage, did some more plastic production parts to prevent like brake blocks and things shorting out the locos, that'd be a great step forward for the likes of me. If I was clever enough, I'd move into it.
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely something new for me. And way above me. I've never done CAD or give me a piece of paper and a pencil. I'll quite happily draw it, but ask me to do it on a computer. It's like, what?
No, my limit to getting Google onto my Mac computer 5 minutes before we went on air, because I run Safari. That's my limit of technology applications with computers.
But you're still doing better than Peter did, because Peter lasted 15 minutes. So,
well, I've had the internet fix, which has helped.
Oh, it's been a really good strong signal. So
yeah,
Peter have obviously got something right there.
Well, they did what they should have done the first time around. They should put a new cable in through the wall to the router.
It's been good. It's been a good stream.
Yeah.
So it's been great. Thanks for coming on, Martyn.
I've enjoyed it. I was a bit, this is not. I'm out my comfort zone, but as I say, I can talk crap with the best of them.
It's nice to just have a chat with someone who's a good modeler and bounce ideas off someone as well, and share skills, which is what what we're all about, really, isn't it? Really.
Well, I think that's the problem. There's too many people who do stuff that are not willing to sit and talk to people how to do it. This is how I do it. Give it a try. If it works for you, it works for you. They like to keep little secrets. Well, I daren't tell you how I do my soldering and stuff like that, because then you'd take my business over. Well, I'm quite happy to tell you how I do it. If you want to take over what I do, you're welcome to it, because you don't make any money out of it.
Absolutely. And the problem is, you end up with skills that die with you then, and that's for me, that's not the way to go forward. It's not the it's about, if I might have a skill of I'm good at something, but if I share my skill with you, you'll share something back with me, and we all learn then that way.
Well, this is it, and I've seen it since I've come into the O gauge, where you've had manufacturers. We're talking like cottage industry people here, and they produce an absolutely fabulous product and quite rightly charge a royal price for it. And when they come to retiring, they refuse to sell the stuff on, because you couldn't do it as good as I could. And I think, well, that's the wrong way to do it. It's not your problem they can't do it as good. It's, sell your business, earn some money, and pass your abilities on. But there are people that do that, and stuff disappears, never to be seen again.
Yeah, and that's a shame, really, because it's a product that someone else could benefit from, really.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we'll be at the Warley MRC Open Weekend, Warley members and MRYCG Members Day on the 31st of July. So, like I said, you've got a trainee on Digitrax or whatever, Digitrax.
Yeah, it's easy. Dead easy.
Yeah. A few people have said that, and
it's using it. I think sometimes if you're not used to DCC, and it's a bit mind blowing to operate this handset with 1,000 buttons on it. I think this is why people get things like Lens, because there's only a couple of buttons to press, so there ain't much to have to remember. But
I've got an ECOS, so it's all touchscreen, and it's easy. But I'm sure it's also the problem with Warley Road is the spiral, and there's as much track out of view as there is in view.
Yeah.
So just getting used to how the layout of the track works, and running it to get the best out of the track plan.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure you'll help me with
that layout on my own at shows, and I've had 4 locos running, 2 on each line, because the Digitrax controller couldn't operate 2 locos on one controller. So it is possible to run 4 track complete trains in one go, one after another. You'll find out.
I'll find out, definitely. But no, it's been lovely talking to you, Martyn.
Yeah,
We've done.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Just under 2 hours, so it's been a really good session. Lost in time, and thanks for joining me. And we'll see you on the. Well, I'm sure I'll see you in the club when we can get back in the club. And
yeah, in the club or the next Sunday Zoom meeting. Is it this weekend? Isn't it?
I think there's one this weekend, isn't it? I'm back at work though, so I probably won't be able to come. Well, I'll be in for the first half an hour, but I have to open my shop at 11 o'clock. So.
Well, at least we get some input. That's to make sure Paul knows to get you on first.
I'll get in first, but I'm sure about to catch up with everyone anyway. So
yeah.
No, it's been good. So thanks, Martyn. Thanks for joining me. And we'll see you again.
Yep. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
So that's it then. We've done an hour and 50 minutes. Thank you to everyone for joining us today on our stream. It's been really good chat with Martyn, talking about obviously live Steam, talking about O-Gauge, talking about the show. Just a really good chat. So thanks to everyone who joined us. Hope you enjoyed the stream, and we should be back next week with another live stream on Wednesday at 2 p.m. So thanks very much, and we'll see you again.